Hey everybody, my name is Dave, and 2 days ago on December 3rd I had gastric bypass surgery. I've been watching a lot of videos on YouTube from people who've had this procedure, and it really helped me while I was prepping for it, so I thought maybe I would do some videos as well to give the perspective of a guy, because a lot of the videos are from women. I guess more women have bypasses than men, not sure. Anyhow, so today's December 5th. It's 2 days after my surgery. On December 3rd, Monday, I had gastric bypass at St. Luke's Hospital in Manhattan. My surgeon was Dr. Belzy. My highest weight pre-surgery was 293, although on the day of surgery I was about 279 due to the 5-day liquid diet that preceded surgery. I didn't weigh myself today. I know that the number has gone down a little bit. I don't think it's consequential, but I'll be weighing myself pretty frequently. Just didn't do it today. So, how do you feel after 2 days after surgery? Overall, I'd have to say you feel pretty good. You know, I'm not in any type of physical pain. The laparoscopic incision areas on my stomach are not painful to touch or anything like that. What you feel is a little queasy at times. You feel a little instability within your core, your stomach area, and you're a little fatigued, and so doing a lot of physical stuff, catches up to you. If I had to go walk, 10 blocks, that would probably take a lot out of me. I haven't done that. Came home straight from the hospital, been taking naps, just trying to get my, strength back and rest. When they discharge you, you're still on a liquid diet, but you can add back protein drinks, but you're under orders to hit a certain quantity per day, and I think it's kind of challenging. Even though to get discharged you have to prove that you can drink 4 ounces of fluids within 1 hour, that's the minimum you need to do when you get out, and also they don't want you to drink it fast. So, sitting at the table and drinking 1 ounces of broth or water every 15 minutes, it's a lot to get adjusted to and to execute properly. I've been doing it for an hour, maybe not the second hour, doing it, I'm gonna try and make sure I get the ounces I need, but it's a little bit challenging right now to fall into that pattern, particularly since that means every sort of meal, quote unquote, is gonna take an hour or two. So that's kind of difficult to manage. The surgical experience was really not that bad. I had never had a surgery before, been put under anesthesia, but I remember being in the OR and somebody's cracking a joke. Next thing I know, I'm in the recovery room out of OR, sort of coming to my senses. Everything happened while I was out, obviously, and you really don't have any recollection of anything. The day that I spent in the hospital wasn't really bad, I didn't probably eat or drink anything for most of that day. I just didn't have any desire to, but eventually I knew that I had to achieve the 4 ounces per hour in order to get released, and I really wanted to get out after 1 day. So by evening, after the day of surgery, I started drinking the 1 ounce per hour, then the 2 ounce per hour, 3, and then 4. And the doctor said, fine, we can send you home. My wounds were fine. So I came home, tired. Again, like I said, a little unstable in my body feeling. Nothing very scary, just a little bit, uncomfortable in a weird way. Like, you don't really know why it feels that way, but you've just had surgery, so and they've looked at you a couple times before they let you go. So it was really not, I wasn't worried about it. Just looking forward to when it would start transitioning into feeling a little more normal. And I would have to say, as I sit here making this video right now, like the desire for normalcy is the main thing that sort of has my attention right now. I want to be able to get to the point where I can drink water or broth or something and not be worried about how it's going to react in me. I'm a little bit afraid of doing something that's not permitted, and in part, how I feel makes me afraid of it, right? So I'm like, okay, let me just sip the ounces as directed, and that's a smart thing to do, and I'm doing it. I'm gonna do it, but I kind of look forward to when I feel a little more normal. I took off this week from work. I'm going back to work on Monday, so a week after surgery, and I'm hoping by then that it'll feel kind of similar to when I was on the liquid diet pre-op, which is, still on all liquids, but, they go down easily or more easily than they are a couple days after surgery, and I suspect that's the case. I think that's a big pause. We're going to cut that out. So when I think back to how I got started on this process, it's one of those stories that, show you that life is unpredictable. A couple years ago, I was at a ENT to have a hearing test because I was having some issues with my hearing. And I had sleep apnea, had been diagnosed with sleep apnea, wasn't effectively using my CPAP machine. But that's just background. So I go to this ENT, he does a hearing test, he starts looking at my chart, he notices the CPAP and the sleep apnea, and as I explained to him that it's kind of tricky for me to use the CPAP machine, he comes out, what I thought out of nowhere, and says, hey, have you considered bariatric surgery? Because that will solve your sleep apnea most likely, and sleep apnea is going to shave years off your life even if you're using the CPAP machine. My takeaway from that visit, it's the first time I had ever seen this doctor, he was an ENT, he wasn't my primary, was that he was way out of line. I was a bit offended. I had not seen myself as a person who was a candidate or needed bariatric surgery, right? Over the years of my life, I've gone up and down in weight. I'm about 5'10", and my highest weight pre-surgery was 293. But I've lost weight in the past, gained it back, a lot of what all of us go through. And I just thought, I was someone who worked out, at times very regularly and other times not so much, but, I just didn't think that this was something for me. Fast forward about a year, my sleep apnea was really causing me a lot of trouble because I wasn't using the CPAP effectively. And so I was dozing off everywhere. I couldn't even get in a car for half an hour to drive somewhere unless I had a cup of coffee with me right then and there. I'd be at work, I'd fall asleep at my desk. If I took my kids to a playground, fall asleep while they're playing. I mean, it was bad. I was getting no sleep, and it was really affecting my health. And when I had my physical that year, my blood work came back, and it wasn't good. I was pre-diabetic for the first time ever. And, together, those factors really were like a wake-up call for me, because I talked to my primary at that time. I said, well, what do you think about bariatric surgery? Because she's someone who I had talked about weight loss programs before with, and she thought it was a good idea. And at that point, I just felt it was worth digging into because it wasn't good. My health wasn't good, and it wasn't getting better. The prognosis was not looking good for me. So I ended up going to see a guy who I was referred to by my primary. He he was one of these slick doctors, and felt like a used car salesman, to be honest. I mean, he had a video about the sleeve, and that was pretty much, he said, you're going to get a sleeve, it's going to work, you'll never be hungry again. And the claims were fanciful, and I was just like, wasn't really enjoying that type of service, that type of treatment. Additionally, where the surgery would take place was in Long Island, which was not convenient for me. I live in the city, and so I was just having second thoughts about him. So I went to the second guy who my doctor had given me. When she gave me the name, she gave me two. So I went to the second guy, Dr. Belzy, and it was night and day difference. He talked to me, and if anything, he told me how this was not going to solve all my problems. It was a tool. It was going to help me, but it's possible to sabotage yourself even after you have this procedure. I mentioned the bit about not being hungry again because the hunger hormone in the stomach would be gone. And he was like, well, if we knew that for certain, things would be a lot different. You can't make those kind of categorical claims that you're never going to be hungry because the hunger hormone goes away. So, for whatever reason, I connected with his approach, which was more realistic, maybe pessimistic. And I started the process of all the steps you need to do pre-op to be able to have the surgery, for insurance. And so I started seeing my primary once a month. I saw a psychiatrist, nutritionist, had blood work, x-rays, EKGs, the whole 9 yards. And I was, his message to me was, when you're done with everything and you're qualified for the surgery, we'll talk about what's best for you, whether it's a sleeve or a bypass. So fast forward, I do the appointments. It's now fall of 2018. And I have one final appointment with the surgeon, kind of the last step or two. And, we decided that a bypass would be better for me because you lose more weight on average and you keep more of it off on average. And, one thing my doctor said was, you have to consider yourself the average patient. Some people lose more and some people lose less. If you do what you're supposed to, chances are you'll be in the average range. And the average range was pretty good for me. I don't need to set a record. I thought the average outcome was realistic, and that seemed good. So after some scheduling issues, we were able to schedule for December 3rd. My surgery time was 7:30 a.m. in the morning. I got to the hospital 5:30, and it's been a whirlwind since then. I'm very grateful that I came out of the hospital after one day without a lot of pain. I mean, you never know what can happen in a surgery. This is elective in large part, and I have little kids and a family. So with that out of the way, I'm sort of ready to dive into this post-op life. And I know over the next several weeks, we're going to be monitoring my fluid intake and then moving on to different stages of thickness within my liquids until finally we get to solid food. And, that's going to be good. That's going to be a process that I'm looking forward to. And I'm going to talk about it more in other videos, but here we are. And by the way, if I figure out a good application for putting text and other information in these videos, I will definitely do that. So stay tuned for some additional videos coming, soon. And thanks for watching.